Welcome back to Sissy Maya. Make sure to subscribe to our channel to never miss an update. Additionally, consider subscribing to my Patreon to get access to these features, and much more.
Mom and Dad separated a few years back, and despite child support, our finances were tight. Everything changed recently when Mom hit the jackpot with the lottery. We suddenly had more money than we could have imagined, and our lives were about to transform. I was just an average kid, ignoring my mom and teachers, and being a nuisance to my older sister Barbara and her friends. One of my favorite pastimes was sneaking up on Barb and flipping up her dress. I thought it was the most thrilling thing, next to peeking up her skirt. Barb hated it, but with Dad gone, Mom struggled to keep me in check. Her efforts were overshadowed by a flood of complaints from neighbors and teachers. One day, Mom announced that we would be moving to a new town at the end of the school year. She said it would be a fresh start and that she was confident I'd behave better. After seeing pictures of our new house, I could hardly believe it. We were moving from a cramped apartment to a spacious home with a massive yard. I would have my own room with a walk-in closet almost as big as my old room. Barb was thrilled, saying she'd finally have enough space for her outfits, while I'd have ample room for everything I owned. Mom mentioned that I'd soon need the space for new clothes. Although I hadn't seen the new house yet, Mom had hired people to paint and furnish it, preparing for our move in a few months. She said things would be different in the new house but wouldn't elaborate. When I asked Barb, she just said I'd find out soon. I was a bit uneasy, noticing Barb's curious and knowing smiles. I suspected she was up to something. On moving day, with school out for 2 weeks, I had said goodbye to all my friends. We weren't bringing much, the house would be fully furnished, and Mom and Barb had been shopping extensively for new clothes for my closet. I didn't mind, after making do with so little for so long, my clothes weren't anything special. Mom, Barb, and I spent the last few hours tidying up the old house before heading to the new one. I rushed inside, eager to see how everything looked, but Mom stopped me, saying she wanted to show me my new room. Barb insisted on joining, excited for me to see it. When Mom opened the door to my new room, I was stunned. It was decorated with a canopy bed, ruffled pink sheets, a pink rug, and cream-colored walls. My dresser was filled with heated curlers and various makeup items. There was also a display of fancy dolls and a poster of a popular rock band that the girls at school adored. Mom opened the doors to my walk-in closet, revealing it packed with clothes that looked like Barb's. There wasn't a t-shirt or pair of shorts in sight, just dresses, skirts, and blouses. Barb's grin was wider than ever. "I hope you like your new room and clothes," Barb said with a grin. "I helped Mom decorate and picked out all of your new outfit." "Mom!" I shouted. "What kind of awful joke is this?" "This isn't a joke," Mom replied calmly. "You don't like your new room? I refuse to sleep in that room or wear those clothes," I declared firmly. "Then you'll need to find somewhere else to live," Mom said resolutely. "If you stay here, you'll sleep in that room and wear those clothes." "But Mom, those are girls' clothes. I can't dress like a girl, everyone will think I'm strange." "Trust me, no one will think you're weird. They'll just see you as a cute girl." "Isn't this fantastic?" Barb asked with a touch of sarcasm. "You've always wanted to see what's under my dresses, and now you'll get to wear them too." Mom explained that she was at her wits' end trying to manage me. Nothing had worked, so she took inspiration from her mother's idea, which had worked on another boy. Though it seemed drastic, my grandmother's reminder of all the trouble I'd caused convinced her it was necessary. Since I couldn't behave properly as a boy, maybe the constraints of being a girl would help. Today marked the end of my life as Kevin Roth. From now on, I would be Melissa and Roth. I would no longer be able to run off to play baseball while Barb did housework. I would have to help with what I used to call girls' work. No more climbing trees or scaring people. I wouldn't be able to do those things in a dress and stockings. I wouldn't be flipping up Barb's dresses either, as I wouldn't want anyone doing that to me. Mom instructed me to go to my room and change into something pretty. She smiled and said, "Come on, Mel, I'll show you how to put things on." I want you to look especially nice." I was too upset to protest and soon found myself in my room in just panties. Mom picked out the rest of my new outfit from the closet. Before long, I was dressed in a padded bra, tan pantyhose, a lace-trimmed slip, and a cream-colored dress with a full skirt and lace sleeves. I felt a wave of fear as she zipped up the back and fastened the clasp at the top. It felt so final. Mom then helped me into white shoes with a low heel and buckled the strap. After some work with a brush and headband, I had a new hairstyle. "Well, what do you think?" she asked. "Do you like your new clothes?" "No, I hate them," I cried. "I'm a boy. I don't want to wear dresses and girls' underwear." "Sorry, Melissa," Mom said gently. "But there's no other option. You'll really come to enjoy being a girl once you get used to it." What could I do? I couldn't run away, and if I stayed, I had to be a girl. I knew I had to stay, but I couldn't stop worrying about what lay ahead. When we returned to the living room, Barb was waiting, grinning and admiring me from every angle. "You look really cute, Mel. I can't believe how pretty you look in your new clothes." Mom asked me to sit down, and as I did, she showed me how to smooth my skirt, keep my legs together, and fold my hands in my lap. I felt awkward, but I followed her instructions. She explained that from now on, I would be expected to dress, act, and behave like a girl my age. All my boys' clothes and any toys not suitable for a girl had been given away. No more toy guns or similar items, now it would be baby dolls, jump ropes, tea sets, and the like. I would have the best of everything: bicycles, cable TV in my room, and more. Mom was determined to make me feel loved and cherished as her daughter. Mom then mentioned that in 2 weeks, I would go to a summer camp for 3 weeks. This camp was unique. It taught boys how to become girls. If I paid attention and worked hard, no one would be able to tell I hadn't been born female. After camp, I would start at a nearby private school as Melissa, where I'd be treated like any other girl. Just what I always wanted, I thought sarcastically. Going back to school as a girl seemed crazy to me. But Mom was serious, and I realized there was no escape. If I stayed, I could have everything I'd ever hoped for, or rather, everything Barb had hoped for. I decided to wait it out, hoping Mom would change her mind. I told Mom I'd go along with her plans, which made her smile. She knew she had me cornered but still acted like it was my choice. Barb then took me to my room and started explaining my new clothes, what they were for and how to wear them. It was clear there would be a huge difference between my old and new clothes. My once white underwear now came in every color of the rainbow, and lace was everywhere. My panties, slips, and even training bras were all trimmed with lace. Barb laughed when I held up one of my training bras. "Don't worry, little sis," she said with a smirk. "You'll fill them out soon enough." I wasn't sure if she was teasing or serious, but I was too scared to find out. The next few weeks were challenging. I had to wear girls' clothing every day, dresses during the day and frilly baby doll pajamas with matching ruffled panties at night. Mom called it a crash course in being a girl. I also had to learn to wear all the right undergarments, including bras, girdles, slips, and pantyhose. I ruined several pairs of stockings before I got the hang of them, but Mom just smiled and bought more, saying it was normal for girls to go through several pairs before mastering them. The toughest adjustment was learning to walk, sit, and stand in a dress. Barb was delighted to finally get revenge for all the trouble I'd caused her. Mom had even hired a lawyer to change my birth certificate, now showing that I was born a female named Melissa and Roth. I felt trapped. There seemed to be no way out of this situation. Mom and Barb were certainly getting their wish for me to behave. Every day, I had to do housework and dishes, just like they had done before. I wasn't about to sneak out to play in my dresses, so I stayed home and focused on learning how to be feminine. Barb's teasing eventually faded, replaced by a friendlier demeanor toward her little sister. She became quite helpful, teaching me how to dress and act properly, and even promised to help me style my hair once it was long enough. What a treat! Learning housework was challenging enough, but doing it in a dress and stockings was an entirely different ordeal. Mom and Barb constantly reminded me to be cautious about how I stood or reached for things to avoid showing my slip. I had to be very careful not to snag my stockings or risk having to change them. Going to the bathroom was another hassle. Arranging my dress and underwear afterward was a real inconvenience. I missed the simplicity of just unzipping and relieving myself. Now I had to hold up my skirt and slip with one hand while using the other to pull down my pantyhose and panties. Soon, it was time for me to go to summer camp. For the first time in 2 weeks, I was allowed to wear shorts instead of dresses. I chose a pair of pink ruffled shorts, a sleeveless white top, pink ankle socks, and white sneakers. The last couple of weeks had left their mark on me. I found myself sitting and standing as if I were still in a dress. Barb smiled and told me I was doing great and that she was proud of her new sister. I'm sure she meant it as a compliment, but I still couldn't accept the idea of being a girl for the rest of my life. Mom drove me to camp and helped carry my luggage into the dorms. The rooms were as frilly as my room at home, decorated in pastel colors with lace curtains, twin beds, and matching vanities. For the next 3 weeks, I would share a room with another girl my age. After Mom settled my things, she wished me luck, kissed me, and left. I checked my closet and found, in addition to my usual skirts and dresses, a white tennis dress, matching lace-trimmed panties, and several pairs of heels. While looking for any other surprises, I discovered 2 bathing suits, one purple, the other sky blue. I couldn't imagine wearing either, but I knew it wouldn't be long before I was standing by the pool in a girl's swimsuit. A little while later, my roommate arrived and introduced herself as Ken. I must have looked confused because I was convinced this was a girl. Ken insisted he was really a boy like me but enjoyed dressing up as a girl. His mother had sent him to this camp to smooth out any rough edges, despite his appearance. Ken wore cut-off jeans and a top tied just below her bra line, with shoulder-length blonde hair tied back in a ponytail. This was the kind of girl any guy would have stared at for days, and now she was my roommate. Ken's mom assured me he was indeed a boy but liked dressing as a girl. Her decision to send him to camp was to help him refine his mannerisms. Rough spots. From where I stood, there was nothing rough about Ken. He looked all girl, curves, sweetness, and everything feminine. Ken's mom suggested that perhaps he could leave and I could help her unpack, so we could get to know each other better. Ken agreed, gave his mom a goodbye kiss, and we started putting away his things. While we organized, Ken chatted excitedly about how thrilled he was to be at the camp and how wonderful it would be. He seemed surprised when I mentioned that I wasn't happy about being at the camp and certainly didn't want to wear girls' clothes or learn how to act like a girl. He smiled and assured me that once I adjusted, I'd love wearing pretty clothes, getting my hair done, and embracing being a girl. Ken's mom had dressed him as a girl last Halloween, and Ken had enjoyed every moment of it. People mistook him for a real girl, and he had so much fun that he begged his mom to let him dress up whenever he could. When he heard about this camp and the opportunity to live as a girl for 3 weeks, he persuaded his mom to let him attend. He was eager to learn everything about being a girl and promised to show me how much fun it could be. His enthusiasm was infectious, and soon I found myself thinking it might not be as bad as I had initially thought. Shortly after, a woman came to our room and introduced herself as one of the camp counselors. She welcomed Ken and me, assuring us that we'd enjoy our stay. She handed us a camp schedule and a map, informing us that we'd need to meet her in another building in half an hour for a more detailed explanation of our activities. She added, almost as an afterthought, that we were expected to wear a dress or skirt for the meeting. Ken sprang into action, and I found myself rushing around with him, trying to decide what to wear. Ken opted for a mint green sleeveless top and a pleated white skirt, while I chose a peach blouse and a yellow peasant-style skirt. Ken's excitement was so contagious that I had my blouse, stockings, and slip-on before I even realized it. I figured I had no choice, so I put on my skirt, tucked in my blouse, and slipped into a pair of white flats. Ken had no trouble changing from his shorts and top into stockings and a dress, moving with the confidence of someone who had done this all his life. Once dressed, he looked even cuter than before. I wondered if I looked as good as he did and then questioned why I cared. We arrived at the meeting room and joined a group of about 50 other kids. It was clear that some of these kids were boys, but there were also several girls among them. Everyone was dressed in skirts and dresses. Once seated, the head counselor began explaining what to expect over the next 3 weeks. She asked us to look around at the other kids, saying that regardless of our appearance, we were all boys. She then mentioned that by the end of the 3 weeks, that would change. She mentioned that some of us had chosen to come here, while others had been sent against our will. Regardless, it didn't matter because our parents had decided we should become girls. By the end of our time here, we'd think, look, talk, and act just like any other girl our age. We could resist and refuse to learn if we wished, but since we'd inevitably be dressed as girls, it would be in our best interest to be convincing. It was our choice. We could be called sissies, ridiculed, and picked on, or we could embrace being young ladies. Although I disliked looking like this, I certainly didn't want anyone to discover I was a boy. We were divided into age groups, each receiving lessons tailored to our stage of development. My group, ages 12 to 14, would focus on poise, basic makeup, hair care, and fashion. The older group, 15 to 18, would tackle these subjects on a more advanced level, including more makeup, varied clothing styles, and dating. I was relieved not to be in that older group, as I doubted I'd need those skills. I hoped that if I didn't make too much trouble, Mom would forget about this nonsense once I got home. Our first class began with the instructor addressing us as ladies and explaining that some changes would be made to enhance our appearance. Apparently, our parents had made certain decisions for us before we arrived, and now it was time to implement them. We'd all receive hair styling to look as pretty as possible, and some of us would be getting our ears pierced. The thought of having my hair done made me cringe. I had grown it long to defy Mom, who wanted it short. Now it seemed like Mom would get the last laugh. The instructor said my long hair would be styled to make me look really cute. Soon, I was escorted to another room to have my hair washed and styled. The stylist applied a strongly scented lotion after washing and trimming my hair, then started rolling it in curlers. I felt a sinking feeling when I realized what that smell and those curlers meant. I was getting a perm, just like Mom and Barb. While my hair was being set, they filed and shaped my nails, applying several coats of pink polish. Once my nails were done, I was seated under a dryer and handed a pamphlet on menstruation to read. I was horrified until I was informed that this was a topic girls my age discussed and that I needed to understand it. I was shaken, wondering just how far they intended to go with all this. When my hair was completely dry, the curlers were removed, and after a bit of brushing and fluffing, I was allowed to look in the mirror. Thanks to my defiance against Mom, I now had the appearance of a cute girl with long, curly hair. Upon returning to the classroom, Ken greeted me with his usual enthusiasm, showering me with compliments about how cute I looked and how lucky I was to have such long, thick hair. His hair was much shorter, styled to clearly indicate he was a girl, despite being as short as a boy's. Once everyone had finished, we received a lecture on menstruation and how girls discuss it. I learned more than I ever wanted to know about cramps, pads, tampons, and the various aspects of a girl's period. We'd spend several days on this topic and then be required to give a short talk about our periods, when we first started, and whether we used pads or tampons. In the meantime, we began learning how to speak like girls. Our teacher emphasized that speaking like a girl was crucial to our training and would significantly impact our acceptance as girls. We practiced using words like cute, sweet, adorable, and pretty. Instead of saying a black and white cat, we were taught to say an adorable little black cat with cute white paws. We learned to use more descriptive phrases in our conversations, explaining why something looked good and detailing what made it appealing. By the end of the class, we were frustrated trying to think of new ways to describe ordinary things, but the teacher assured us that by the end of the course, we wouldn't think any other way. Next, we focused on poise. We had to balance a book on our heads while walking, something I thought was only in old movies. The teacher insisted it would help us walk more gracefully. A few students managed it on their first try, but most of us struggled and were instructed to practice in our rooms. We were taught to take short, gliding steps to add a feminine wiggle to our walk. I had difficulty with this, and the teacher repeatedly reminded me to slow down and take smaller steps. After about an hour, I began to get the hang of it, much to my teacher's delight and my own relief. I had no idea being a girl was this challenging. The first day of training felt endless, with teachers correcting any unladylike behavior they noticed. We were constantly reminded to smooth out our skirts, cross our legs, keep them close together, and sit up straight like proper young ladies. The teachers never raised their voices, they calmly and kindly complimented us when we did something correctly. This approach made me genuinely want to please them with my girlish behavior. In the mid-afternoon, as the day's training was wrapping up, our teacher said there was one more thing before dismissal. She picked up a large box from the floor, placed it on her desk, and instructed us to come up and collect what was inside when our name was called. We followed her instructions and each received what appeared to be a pair of small panties. We were informed that these were called caching panties and that when worn correctly, they would conceal our male genitals. We were shown how to wear them and told we would need to use them whenever wearing slacks, shorts, or bathing suits. Tight panty girdles would serve a similar purpose under dresses and skirts, but these panties were required at all other times. Afterward, we were dismissed and reminded to enjoy the rest of the day while preparing for the next day's classes. On the way back to our room, Ken convinced me to go swimming with him. I didn't want to at first since I'd have to wear a girl's bathing suit, but he reminded me that everyone there would be a boy in a girl's bathing suit. I still felt silly, but it was awfully hot, so I finally gave in. Back at our room, we took off our dresses and lingerie, then slipped into our caching panties and bathing suits. Not wanting to be too daring, I decided to wear the blue, one-piece suit that Mom had given me. It had taken me a little while to get myself tucked into the caching panties, but when I pulled on the suit and adjusted it, I found that my teacher had been right. I looked just like my sister did in her bathing suits. For the next several minutes, Ken and I just stood there staring at each other, neither of us wanting to be the first to say anything. Finally, Ken spoke up. "You look great, Kevin. Just like a girl." "So do you, Ken," I replied. I hate to admit it, but we look just like a couple of girls. We couldn't seem to take our eyes off of each other's inner thigh and soon began to break out in laughter. Ken threw his arms around me and we stood there hugging and giggling like two girls sharing a special moment. I finally broke the spell. "I think that all things considered, you should call me Melissa, or better yet, Mel." Ken smiled at me. "I think you're right, Mel. Please call me Kelly." We hugged and laughed some more before heading down to the pool. At the pool I still felt a little silly, but we recognized some of the other boys from our class and soon we were having a ball talking about class, clothes, and of course, how we came to be there. I found several other boys whose parents had for one reason or another decided to make girls of them. Some had been dressing since they were little and had grown accustomed to being girls, while others like myself were still having trouble getting used to our new gender. We laid there tanning and talking for hours, talking about growing up as girls. One girl, Jamie, told of how her mother had always wanted a daughter and had bought nothing but girls' clothes when she was pregnant. When Jamie was born, her mom was determined not to let nature stand in the way of her happiness, and with her husband's blessing raised Jamie as a girl. Jamie was finally told of her true gender when she was 8 years old, but by then it was too late to change. She'd been a girl all of her life, and that's how her relatives treated her. She had a closet full of frilly party dresses, play outfits, and school dresses since she had gone to nursery school, kindergarten, and first grade as a girl. Linda was like I had been, hard to get along with, always getting into trouble. Her dad's mother had been the one to suggest that she be turned into a girl as a way to calm her down. Susan was 10 years old when she found out that her dad cross-dressed. She was fascinated by her dad's ability to become a pretty woman and asked if she could try dressing up too. Her parents were only too happy to agree and soon began buying her pretty clothes for her birthday and Christmas. Girl camp had been a 12th birthday gift from her parents. Later, back in my room, I found it odd that some of the boys seemed to accept their new lives as girls so easily. I was determined not to give in. I'd go along with it until Mom changed her mind. I was certain she would, I just had to believe she would. After a shower, I put on my baby doll pajamas, as I had been doing for the past few weeks, and went to bed. It had been a strange day of class, and I was apprehensive about what the next 3 weeks would hold. Could they really make me as comfortable as the girls at the pool seemed? If I managed to convince everyone that I was a girl, would I end up convincing myself too? Was it possible for me to inadvertently become the sweet, well-behaved daughter Mom wanted? Needless to say, falling asleep was difficult. The next morning, I chose a floral sundress for class. It had spaghetti straps, so I wore a strapless bra and a half-slip underneath. I couldn't quite manage my hair the way I had the day before, so I settled for pulling it back into a ponytail. Kelly opted for a denim dress that looked fantastic on her. If I didn't know better, I would have sworn she was a really attractive girl. She thanked me for the compliment on her dress and returned the favor, saying she liked my outfit too. I found it surprisingly easy to accept compliments from her. She had a way of making me feel like I should embrace being a girl. That day's class focused on perfecting our sitting, standing, and walking like girls. I seemed to be improving as I relaxed and recalled everything Mom and Barb had taught me. We gave brief talks about our periods and fielded questions from the teacher and other students. I was relieved to finally sit down again, thinking that talking to a real girl had to be easier than this. Later, I was called out of class and taken back to the beauty shop. I was puzzled since I had just had a perm the day before. Once there, I was told that Mom had requested I get my ears pierced for earrings. Lucky me, with such a considerate mother. Before getting the piercings, I had to endure another lecture and demonstration on ear and earring care. Then, with a slight pop and a moment of discomfort, I had 2 gold ball earrings in my ears. I had considered getting an earring before but never planned on wearing 2. Back in class, Kelly made her usual fuss over my new earrings, saying how lucky I was to have pierced ears. Since she wouldn't be a girl all the time, her mom wouldn't let her get her ears pierced. I offered to trade, but she insisted that pierced earrings were far better than clip-ons. The only redeeming aspect of the experience was being told that if I didn't keep wearing them, the holes would close up. Maybe I could just forget about them while I was at home and not worry about them when I went back to being a boy. As each day passed, we delved deeper into the nuances of being girls. Our training covered everything from sitting and standing to walking and speaking, until these behaviors became second nature. We were addressed as young ladies or girls in groups, and as Miss when alone. Our previous boy names were never used, nor was there any acknowledgement of our former identities. We were treated as if we were young girls attending charm school to refine our femininity. In the first few days, we learned basic makeup skills, and from then on, my group was expected to wear simple makeup, lipstick, blush, and a touch of eyeshadow to class daily. This required me to wake up half an hour earlier to set my hair with the electric curlers Mom had given me and to apply my makeup. The teachers were so effective in treating us as girls that by the end of the first week, we responded instinctively to our new names and needed fewer corrections on our manners. The training was rigorous. Even outside of class, any sign of unladylike behavior was promptly corrected. We attended classes in dresses with full lingerie underneath and wore girls' casual clothes and cashing panties during our free time. Everything we did was done as girls or not at all. I used to enjoy playing tennis and was quite good at it, but found it challenging to play in a short dress and ruffled panties. With no facilities for baseball, basketball, or football, we learned to jump rope and play hopscotch instead. The older girls spent most of their free time at the pool, but my friends and I actually enjoyed the girls' games. The competition was less intense than in boys' sports, allowing us to relax and have more fun. As my final week at camp drew to a close, I bid a tearful farewell to my new best friend Kelly. We promised to keep in touch while our moms walked us to their cars, tears still streaming down our faces. On the drive home, I devised a plan to escape from wearing dresses. Since Mom had framed this as a punishment, I decided to use reverse psychology by pretending to enjoy being a girl. I figured once she saw that her punishment wasn't having the desired effect, she would relent and return things to normal. When Mom asked if I enjoyed the camp, I told her it was the most fun I had ever had and repeatedly thanked her for sending me. She looked somewhat puzzled and mentioned that she thought I might not have enjoyed it, so I thanked her again. She then commented on how pretty I looked in my denim skirt and asked if I liked having my ears pierced. I thanked her for the compliment and said I was thrilled about my pierced ears and eager to buy some pretty earrings. When we got home, Barb made a fuss over how much I had changed in the past 3 weeks, saying I seemed more like a girl than ever. This wasn't too surprising since I had never been a girl and still wasn't, but I gave her a sweet smile and joked that she'd better be careful about bringing guys around or I might steal them from her. Her reaction told me it struck a nerve, as she shot a look at Mom. Mom laughed and told Barb I was just teasing, while Barb, looking at me oddly, said she'd be cautious considering how nice I looked. I smiled, flicked my hair, and carried my things to my room, leaving a puzzled mother and sister behind. It seemed my plan was working. Haircuts and boys' clothes were surely on the horizon. After putting away all the camp clothes, I rejoined Barb and Mom, who were watching a movie. I entered with a little sway in my hips, smoothed my skirt, sat down, and crossed my legs just as I'd been taught. The look of bewilderment on Barb's face was priceless. "Are you sure that's my little brother, Mom? He's become quite the young lady, Barb," Mom replied. "You might want to take some tips from him, just what every girl dreams of," Barb sighed. "Having her little brother teach her how to be a lady. I'd be happy to help, Barb," I said sweetly. "It's the least I can do to show my appreciation." "Appreciation for what?" "For making me into a girl, of course." "Wait a minute," Barb said, her confusion deepening. "You mean you don't mind what we did to you? You can't seriously like wearing dresses and girls' underwear?" "To be honest, Barb, I hated it at first, but now that I'm used to it, I actually like wearing girls' clothes. The fabrics are so soft, and the underwear feels so nice. I almost wish I'd been born a girl instead of a boy." I aimed to keep Barb off balance, but Mom interrupted, announcing a shopping trip and a movie, and wanted to help me choose something pretty to wear. I said it sounded fun but insisted on picking out my own outfit. Mom's expression showed she was unsure, and I intended to keep it that way. I hurried to my room and sifted through my closet to find the perfect ensemble. It had to be something stunning to convince them I was serious about being a girl. After a few minutes, I found exactly what I wanted: a white gauze skirt that fell between my knees and ankles and a pink gauze top. It was the perfect outfit for a hot summer day, and feminine enough to drive Mom and Barb wild. I also gathered the remaining pieces I needed: a long white half-slip and camisole, tan stockings, and pink sandals. After dressing, I brushed my hair into a ponytail, secured it with a white lace scarf Barb had kindly provided, and added a touch of pink blush and lip gloss. When Barb saw me, her eyes nearly popped out of her head. I did a quick spin and asked for her opinion. Barb told me I looked gorgeous, while Mom stood there beaming with pride at her new daughter. She might enjoy it now, I thought to myself, but I'd change Mom's mind soon enough. Before long, she'd be begging me to go back to being Kevin. I'd have the last laugh then. Our first stop at the mall was an upscale women's clothing store. I knew Mom and Barb were eager to see how I'd handle it, so I made sure not to disappoint. I browsed through the racks just like the other girls, pulling out different outfits and holding them up against myself in the mirror. I selected several outfits to try on and asked Barb where the dressing room was. She pointed to a corner of the store, but before I could head over, she said she had an outfit she wanted me to try on. I swallowed hard when I saw what she was holding: a rose-colored satin gown with short, puffy sleeves. "You might fool Mom, but I'm betting you're still too much of a boy to pull this off," Barb whispered. She knew I was trapped. If I refused to try on the gown, she'd tell Mom I was lying and I'd never escape wearing skirts. I took the gown from her and headed to the dressing rooms. I took off my skirt and top, reached for the gown, quickly unzipped it, stepped in, and pulled it up to my shoulders. I zipped it as far as I could and turned to view myself in the mirror. The dress fit pretty well, thanks to Barb's calculations. I only needed to roll up the waistband of my slip to keep it from showing. Barb was outside calling for me to come out, so I took a deep breath and stepped out of the dressing room. "Would you mind zipping me up, Barb?" I couldn't get the zipper any higher. Barb smiled and said she'd be happy to help as she zipped the gown all the way up and fastened the small hook at the top. "Mom, come see how pretty Mel looks in this dress," Barb called out. Mom came over and immediately began fussing over how lovely I looked in the gown. Barb insisted I turn this way and that to show it off, and I obliged happily. "Isn't it beautiful, Mom?" I gushed. "I love it." Barb stood behind Mom, giving me sour looks. She was sure I was putting on an act and seemed determined to prove it. "Since she likes it so much, why don't we buy it for her, Mom?" Barb suggested. "A girl can never have too many pretty outfits, right?" "You're right, Barb," Mom agreed. "How about we get this blue one too? Then you two can really look like sisters." "I don't think we should, Mom," I said, teeth clenched. "They're very expensive, and we'll never really use them." Barb seized the opportunity. "I'd love to have the blue one, Mom. It's gorgeous." "It's too expensive, Barb," I said through gritted teeth. Barb smiled at me. "Since we're the same size, we could switch dresses, Mel. You could wear the red one to one party, and I could wear the blue one. Next time, we'd switch, wouldn't that be fun?" "Tons," I replied, seeing that Mom was thrilled with the idea of her daughters in matching dresses. I retreated to the dressing room, removed the gown, and finished trying on other outfits. The idea of showing Mom how much I enjoyed wearing pretty clothes seemed less appealing. I needed to keep Barb from interfering if I wanted to convince Mom to change her mind. Every time I thought I'd shake Mom's resolve, Barb turned the tables, making Mom more convinced than ever that I should stay a girl.